All right, so we're here at Nucleus. My name is Andrew Quarry. Introduce yourself.
Amin Suleiman
Nice.
from the great state of Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Not as great as Miami, though. I don't care what you guys think over there, eating granola and chasing beers.
It's more like crack these days,
Yeah, I feel you. We have a little bit of that here, too. It snows in summer in Miami, by the way, in case you don't know that.
Got it.
Okay, yeah.
I think it snows year round here.
Yeah, year-round,
Yeah,
year-round. Anyway, so we're not here to talk about snow, the weather, or the animals, but let's talk about development and the sinking, not ships, but buildings. What's going on and what's the future of the city when you think about sea level rise, coastal towns? How are we going to address this issue as a developer?
I, as a developer, I would say if I go through the history of let's say traveling to a market and prospecting real estate and looking at properties and looking at buildings, I can go back 10, 15 years, and it's the same assets that were historic or new or brand new construction or just being built, and they're the same assets that have always been there. So I don't ever want to disrespect the idea or the information or knowledge behind climate change or sinking buildings or the rising sea level or this or that, but that's not going to stop real estate. And for the buildings and collection of stuff that people are worrying about or sinking or this or that, I feel like that's clickbait for other developers or municipalities to come in and try to honestly create legislation that directs things one way or the other. I mean, such an unfortunate incident with the Surfside collapse.
Yeah.
But think about the financial and potentially global impact with real estate and the certification process and foundation construction and lawsuits that one unfortunate tragedy had. So I think the fear-mongering around sinking real estate and buildings and the sea level rise is just mainly that. If I say I've been here 1,000 times and I've walked through, I apologize for saying this, but ghetto Fontainebleau, it's the same property as it's always going to be. It's never going to change. It's going to have the same gum stuck on the walls and all of this, and that's what it is.
We might need to edit that part out, but okay.
Yeah. What did I say? Did I say I love it?
Yeah, you say you love it. Okay, great, amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
No,
Well,
but
yeah.
I understand that these things can become fear mongering, clickbait. It's a PR engine to try to create opportunities for others, right?
Yep.
And it's very opportunistic, but at the same time, not ignoring the science and also the opportunistic attitude of that space. That we can actually make a difference in the context of like making sure that we're paying attention to the science and developing for a climate migration. Okay. People who are getting priced out of their cities because of these issues, all right, and they're, by all means, they're losing homes, they're losing properties, and of course insurance companies are pulling out. LA is a great example right now. For instance, yes, there's a lot of opportunity now for rebuilding, but who are the people who are coming in who are going to do it ethically speaking? And how are we going to have the same tragedy, transpire again?
So it's funny that you even go down that road, because when we talk about, like, generally speaking, the ethics with real estate, it's almost an oxymoron. Like it's unbelievable. So when I think about,
Are you trying to say developers are not ethical? Oh gosh.
Gosh, I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that. I would never say that. I'm a developer.
Of course you are.
Yeah. Look, if I look at Los Angeles as an example, and we'll jump ahead to Miami, what's going on in Miami right now. But let's go as Los Angeles as an example is potentially you had a catastrophic, once in a generation fire and wind event that just decimated just thousands of acres of real estate.
Let me stop you for a second. You say you use once in a generation, but the reality is these things are happening a lot more.
You get a fire every year. I mean, Colorado, Los Angeles, Reno, Nevada. You get a fire.
Every year.
It's just
so
every
why
year.
so why haven't we figured out ways to mitigate this? We have all the technology you could think of, all the data you could think of. I mean, we're building rockets that are reusable at this point. Come on, we can't figure this shit out.
Okay, but
okay, all right.
Just like in healthcare, if Pfizer could figure out one pill that fixed everything, they'd be out of business. So this is a business,
Oh, gosh.
and I'm not saying that
You gotta
fire.
love humanity, don't you?
Yeah, fire and destruction is not a recurring business, but it's a recurring business, And if you think about the infrastructure related to a fire or a
Yeah.
tornado or a hurricane,
Yeah.
or let's say a global war, it's huge.
It's huge business. I get
the,
it.
The infrastructure and everything from rebuilding these cities and the materials and the transportation of the materials and the natural resources and oil and gas used to even get these projects done is huge. It's a huge part of an economy. So do I down to the insurance? The insurance is still part of an economy. So do I think that they could build concrete, fire retardant foam homes that never burn? Absolutely. Do I think they can build earthquake proof homes and hurricane? Absolutely. But that doesn't make money every 12-month cycle. We need these things to happen.
At what point do we get to and say, you know what? Yes, we need to make money, but I don't know if you can even dub this as a phrase because it almost sounds like an oxymoron. A conscious capitalist. Is that even possible? At what point do we say, you know
Sorry,
what?
what language are you speaking? I don't speak that language.
Exactly. Because
what is that? Yeah.
Because you're a fucking developer, of course.
Look,
yeah. So, like, at some point, where do we say enough is enough, and actually care about others and the humanity, and that word we use, love. I know it doesn't never get to the bottom line. It's never a line. It's never a line item on the actual proposal.
I think it happens. Right now, today, I think it happens. It's just in Omaha, Nebraska, or Kansas City, Missouri, or places people do not want to live. If you want to live somewhere beautiful, you want to live somewhere where you can control the ebb and flow of appreciation, and the interest rates matter up or down on a true economic level, these places have got to stay in play.
Yeah.
And by play, I mean if a disaster comes, if you're dealing with socioeconomic issues, all these things matter in these markets that have the ability to go up and down. It's part of the financial ecosystem. Unfortunately, this country wasn't necessarily built on ethics. I mean, you as a black man, you know this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm learning, but you definitely as a black man know this.
Have you looked in the mirror? You're a black man too.
I know.
Just
I don't think my traffic stops are the same as your traffic stops.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So this country was definitely not built on ethics.
It's not built on ethics. And I think as a developer, I've come in, being a black man, I've come into predominantly African American neighborhoods, and these particular sellers, landowners, homeowners will only want to work with me. And as I do the transactions and I'm part of the process or problem, however you look at that, of converting these neighbors over and being that key mechanism in gentrification, I'm blamed negatively more than even your white developers. And if they weren't going to buy these properties from me, they go and do it with somebody else. So it's just one of those things where I think the responsibility is going to come to the individual more than anything.
Okay.
If you're in Palisades, unfortunately, and you've had this, and you're blessed to be able to rebuild right. Don't rebuild with something that's going to go up on the next fire.
Yeah.
Really weigh your options for insurance. Fight the municipality on permitting and fees and all those other things that you can do, and really kind of take control of that process start to finish. And that way, when you go through this process again, and it will happen again because this is a fire, it's going to happen every year.
Yeah.
Then you have a little bit of a layer of protection potentially that you may not have had just going through the traditional process that these guys have gone through before.
So, speaking of like black and brown communities, historically, the system that's been designed, it was meant to obviously segregate, separate. Urbanism and urban planning was a terrible tool for dividing humanity. How you talk about, as individuals think about rebuilding, to be smart about it, right? There's a lot of nostalgia that plays into things. People who they're thinking about the past, the historical data. My house was built this way. My mom did this. My grandparents did this. How do you advise them to go push past that mental state of it has to be the way it used to be, so they can actually take advantage of an economic rise in going forward in what they're building, but also protecting themselves as we're talking about climate issues as well too.
If I were sitting in front of a victim of a fire, and they said, hey, historically my great grandpa built this house, and he built it with his hands, and this was the architecture, and this is what it meant, and I want to rebuild it, I would say I respect that. Then I would get a lighter and burn their fucking hand, and then say, that's what happens when you build a stupid way. You better use concrete. That's how you're going to get over this. So that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
Life is about forward thinking and innovation and moving forward, and technology and use of space and use of materials and all these things. And it's not great when you're talking about the nostalgia and the history of it and all that, but that just doesn't work. Yeah. And then furthermore, when you have layers of government that aren't really protecting the people and their assets and the financial wherewithal, then you have to kind of take it on your own and say, I'm gonna be 100% responsible for what this looks like and how this works and how we rebuild and what that is and being able to protect for the future here. So at the end of the day, if you built with frame, or you built with concrete, or you built with metal, it doesn't matter. You're still on a bluff in California. It's still beautiful.
Yeah.
So
as we wrap this up, because no one wants to hear two black guys talking for so damn long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We
should be twerking or rapping.
I know, for sure. We should actually be downing some shots right now.
Hennessy,
bro.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, if you were to build and live somewhere, thinking about the indestructible cities of the future or locations. Of course, climate shift happens anywhere. And I keep on focusing on this because I truly believe in the science. I support a lot of these initiatives, and we can't ignore it, And yes, the planet's going to do its thing, but we are accelerating the pace of it in a very negative way. You look at the landfill, and people when they're separated from the output of their consumption and the effects of it, like going to a landfill to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
They're not in any way invested in being better consumers. So we have to think about, okay, well, if you were to think about a place where you would build, where you feel as if none of this climate shift will touch for a long time, you'll have a comfortable life, build wonderfully in a way that, your structures will not be damaged, not by fire, not by tornado, not by the hurricanes, where would that be right now? For a very long time, for the next 100, 200 years. Not that we're going to be around.
So ultimately, I don't think it matters. What I think matters is, let's take Malibu as
and also that the insurance companies, we've totally okay to scam you by going there too.
How do we eliminate the insurance companies? So let's say instead of Malibu, I'm perched on a cliff on Malibu.
Yeah.
I'm looking out at the ocean. It's beautiful, the waves. I got this $30 million home, and that's my reality. Now let's take that away and let's go 50 years into the future, and I have a brand new home on Mars or on the moon. Okay, now, by virtue of the location, I might have a view of the entire planet of Earth, which is more beautiful than any ocean. You get all the oceans in one view, but I can't build that home out of frame. I have to build that home that can sustain asteroids and the atmosphere or lack thereof, etc. So no matter what, as we go forward, you have to build for all of those potentialities, and you eliminate insurance at that point. Once you build the correct way, you'll eliminate the city being involved or the state being involved in things that they don't need to. It's just the way you're going to have to build. So Miami is a great example. California's a great example. Colorado's got snow. Hawaii, there's so many places where this beautiful, beautiful planet can, within an instant, take things away from us. We have to be able to build consistently in a way that we can still live and grow and breed and grow our food and raise our families that's safe. So I think it's not so much a location or whatever, it's the method. If I live in Iowa or the Tornado Alley, I got to build for that. There's no reason that we shouldn't be able to live there.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be able to grow our food there and raise our families there. We just have to build for that eventual
environment.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. Running away from the sea level rise is not going to solve the problem here in Miami. It's developing the tech, the methodologies that need to change and adjust to address that. You know, it's like Kevin Costner, Waterworld.
Yeah.
You know, the reality of that is becoming a thing here.
You know, Miami, if the water raises here in Miami, all it does is deliver the Coke right to your window. You don't have to go down to...
It's called a square grouper, by the way. Yeah, it's called a square grouper, just in case. Well, this has been fun. Again, Amin, thanks for joining me on, for this impromptu conversation. And to the guys at Nucleus, thank you so much for having us. Hopefully this was also fun for you guys, and I look forward to supporting this platform and
Much
our
success
collaboration.
definitely.
Much success there.
Yeah.
And of course, looking for our collaboration too with herblandia.com, and we'll be hosting here pretty soon as well. So thank you. Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.